please don't fall for that shit. Don't fall for that shit. Okay, that's so fucking. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Listen. Before we get into this video, I just want to say, I'm going to give my little disclaimer and then we're going to move on. I'm just a girl, okay? I'm just a girl, and these are just my opinions on things that I think should be questioned and side-eyed a little bit more in the spiritual, new age spiritual community. If you feel differently, if you think differently, or you know in your heart of hearts differently, that's okay. That is perfectly okay. I am simply here to offer another perspective because I think it's important to not just completely and wholly subscribe to certain ideologies just because so-and-so said X, Y, and Z, just because so-and-so said it in such a way that was so profound and so resonant that now we refuse to believe anything else. I think that that's dangerous and harmful, and so I'm here as always. It is always my mission to stir the pot, okay, and shake the fucking table, and that's what I'm here to do. And if you don't resonate with anything that I'm saying, please, by all means, don't listen to me. I'm always encouraging, listen to your own discernment and your own intuition. Okay, so there's my little disclaimer. Let's get into it. I did an episode like this. I think it was episode 5 of the podcast. I don't think I recorded a video for it. If you want to listen to that episode, I will leave it linked below. But I did an episode early on talking about these new age spiritual myths and bullshit narratives that I just don't agree with for multiple reasons, whether it's the whole narrative or the way that it's being the way that it is being marketed and sold to people. So these are some more, because there's always more shit that I am trying to debunk and unpack. So here are some more new age spiritual bullshit rhetorics that I would like to address. Okay. So the first is the idea of an ego death. My first introduction to this idea of an ego death was through Eckhart Tolle. Okay, I read The Power of Now and it changed my life. And that was very early on in my quote unquote spiritual journey, when I first started to really learn about spirituality and presence and how to heal yourself and transform your life and all of that. That was one of the first spiritual or enlightening books that I read, and I think it's a really good book, and I do still recommend that people read it, but I do think that you should take what is being said with a grain of salt. And the reason why is because I think that the idea of an ego death and striving to defeat the ego is a little bit harmful, as are all of the things that we're going to be talking about today. I think that you can slay the ego. I think you can injure the ego, maybe seriously maim the ego, but I don't think that we can completely kill off the ego. And the reason is because we are humans, we are spirits having a human experience, yes, but having an ego is not only just an inevitable part of the human experience, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the idea of an ego kind of has this negative connotation, and in reality, it's something that I think can guide us to truth. So rather than cutting it down and getting rid of it entirely, you can use your ego, the way that your ego is showing its head, the way that your ego is trying to protect you, the walls that it's putting up, the delulu thoughts and ideas that it's creating in your mind, in your experience, right, in your perception of reality, of yourself, of another person, of a situation that you're in. I think that the ego is a valuable tool that we can use to better understand ourselves and cut through to the truth of a situation, right? So it's something that we want to constantly and will be constantly overcoming, but it's not something that we are ever going to get rid of. And trying to completely get rid of it, I think you're going to end up stuck in a cycle of disappointment and frustration with yourself because you haven't reached complete and total enlightenment. I kind of think of the ego, this metaphor popped into my head while I was on a walk the other day. I think of the ego as the Hydra from Hercules. I know that it's a creature that exists in like Greek mythology, but Hercules, okay? The creature from Hercules, all right? So you chop off its head and then another head grows back. And I know that that's like a little dramatic because I'm pretty sure like he chopped off one head and then like 3 grew back. And I don't remember how he killed that thing, but not the point. The point is, I think that that is kind of what the ego is. Like, we are constantly in a cycle of death and rebirth, right? So we are constantly kind of quote unquote killing off parts of ourselves, and then using the remnants or the ashes, if you will, to alchemize that into something else, right? We're never completely getting rid of it. Everything is kind of being recycled and transmuted into something else. And I think that that applies to the ego. There's always going to be different aspects of our ego that are popping up, and it's up to us to kill off those parts of ourselves and transmute them into something else. And we continuously do that as we evolve, as different aspects of our ego kind of rear their heads and pop up for one reason or another. But we're never going to completely get rid of it. So toss that idea in the trash, please. Come at me at Cartole. Actually, please don't, because that I know that man, he would run circles around me. The next new age myth that I want to address is the idea that we are either divine masculine or divine feminine, and our wholeness is found in attracting our other half. Now listen, I know that the majority of these like divine feminine coaches and gurus are not outright saying that we are only one or the other, but the teachings that they have, okay, the teachings that they have, the narratives that they are spewing, the content that they are sharing about how to surrender to the divine masculine, how to attract a man by being more in your feminine, how to attract abundance by being more in your feminine. Everything revolves around being more in your divine feminine essence. And to me, there is a huge implication that you do not need to embody your divine masculine because you are a woman. And oh, it just makes me so upset for so many reasons. To me, it's giving traditional Christianity masked as New Age beliefs. And listen, I do believe that we all embody one energy more than the other, but I think that that is constantly shifting at any given moment, no matter what your gender is, no matter how you identify, no matter what your sexuality is. I think that we all, law of gender, I talk about this all the time. We all embody both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. It's just an energy. Can it be tied to your gender? Yes, but only because of the way that society likely programmed you and conditioned you, the way that your parents did, the way that your peers did, the way that the media did, right? I don't think it's directly tied to our biology. I think that there are certain aspects that maybe are, but we all, regardless, we all have both of these energies within us. And the idea that we should only be embodying one in order to attract the other is so harmful. And I think it just perpetuates this idea that we are not whole on our own. We do need someone else to complete us. And if you want to see how absolutely harmful, like dangerous this can become, please watch the Twin Flames universe documentary. Okay? If you haven't seen that you need to watch it. And I know that that is kind of like the extreme, but it's a slow build into something like that when you are coming at healing and finding wholeness within yourself from a place of, I need someone else to complete me, right? It's so important for us to understand that there is always a balance that can be found within us. And yes, we do need other people, right? We do thrive and grow through our relationships, but you are not incomplete simply because you don't have your divine masculine half, okay? Or vice versa. You're not incomplete because you haven't found your divine feminine to surrender to you, okay? Please. I don't feel like I need to say more. I could sit here and rant about that shit for hours. Genuinely, like, grinds my motherfucking gears because it's just wrong. Okay? I know I have a really strong argument right now. It's just wrong. That's all I have to say about that. Mainly because I have multiple videos addressing this, and I will leave them down below as well. Very harmful, okay? Very harmful. And it keeps you, I said I was done, but I'm not. It keeps you in a state of always seeking outside of yourself for healing. And that is how you end up, and how so many people end up paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to people to teach them how to fully embody their divine feminine essence, and attract their partner, their man, their money, their abundance, all of the above. And they get stuck in this cycle of always seeking outside of themselves, when really the healing and the wholeness, all of it lies within. And when you embody that balance, when you have cultivated that balance within yourself, and you also accept that that balance is constantly going to be like teetering and tottering, right? It's never always going to be perfect, because that is just life and being human. When you embrace that and accept that is when reality starts to reflect that wholeness back to you and that abundance back to you, okay? But they don't want to tell you that because that doesn't sell. Okay, moving on. The idea that speaking or thinking negatively only manifests more negativity. Now, this one is a little bit tricky. I wholeheartedly believe that it's important and valuable for us to rewire our subconscious, and the narrative, the inner monologue that we have towards ourselves and our lives. It's important for us to recognize what it is, what the energy that it holds, how it affects us. And if the words that we carry about ourselves, the words that we speak about ourselves, the things that we think about ourselves in our life are mainly negative, then you should absolutely rewire your subconscious and work with the parts of yourselves that are creating this narrative, or that created this narrative long ago, and it's just been on autopilot and it's just been building and festering within you. Absolutely, I think that you should do that. And I do think that rewiring your subconscious mind, rewiring your thoughts, shifting the words that you speak over yourself and your life can affect what you attract. Absolutely. However, the idea that anytime you think something negative or speak something negative, you are only going to manifest more negativity. And so now the goal is to force yourself to never think or speak anything negative ever again as a way to avoid manifesting more negativity. Baby, this is spiritual bypassing 101, okay? We are human. We are human, and part of the human experience is experiencing negative emotions and having negative things happen to us, having negative thoughts for one reason or another. Like, that is part of being a human. And so when you bypass those things, when you force yourself to not feel those things, not even think those things, you are bypassing an aspect of yourself that is not only necessary but is also valuable. Because those negative, I don't believe in pushing away, forcing away those negative thoughts. I do believe in alchemizing them. I do believe in recognizing them, turning towards them, allowing yourself to move through them, whether it takes you 2 seconds because that's something that you've healed already and this is just a pattern of thought that you're having, or it takes you 2 months, 2 years because this is a pattern of thought that is not healed, or it's tied to something that isn't healed and needs to be, and it will take you longer to alchemize that thought. So I believe in alchemizing the negative thoughts, the negative energy that we experience within us into something positive, but in a way that doesn't bypass the feelings and the aspects of ourselves that are tied to those thoughts. So just because you think something negatively, just because you need to rant about your day, just because something fucked up happened to you today or last week or last year and you need to talk about it, you need to process it, then do that. It doesn't mean that you're going to manifest more of that. In fact, I think by suppressing and bypassing those negative thoughts, those negative experiences, you will manifest more because you're ignoring it. You're denying that within yourself that needs to be expressed. And just because something is being suppressed doesn't mean it's not being expressed. Okay, next. This is another tricky one, okay? The idea that every time someone triggers you, it's because of you. It's because you have an aspect of yourself that is unhealed, and the only solution is to go within. It's this idea that everything is my responsibility, everything is my fault, everything is up to me to fix. Again, tricky, because I do believe that anything that triggers you is a reflection of something that is unhealed within yourself. If you are triggered by something, it's because there's a part of you that is resonating with what is being said in a negative way. That's just what it is. However, just because that is true doesn't mean it can't also be true that you are being triggered because the other person played a role as well. I think this is really fucking harmful, especially for people who have a lot of followers, a lot of reach, a lot of recognition, I guess, in the community, or just in general, even in just like more personal, intimate relationships. This can be very harmful, and I think this is a narrative that a lot of narcissists adopt because it's a beautiful way to escape accountability. Okay, I said what I said. It is a perfect way to escape accountability, because if everything that triggers you is a reflection of something within you, then it can never be their fault. And they can just say whatever they want, and it doesn't matter, because if you're triggered, it's on you, boo. And I have seen this shit in person, in close relationships with people, and I have also seen it on big platforms, in the comment section, in people, gurus, coaches, etc., being called out or canceled for something that they did or said that was actually harmful and kind of fucking like thoughtless. And this is the response. If I'm triggering you, it's because there's something unhealed within you. That might be true, babe, but that doesn't mean that you can't still hold yourself accountable. And just because everything is a mirror for what is going on within us does not mean now that nobody else can be held accountable for their actions. We all need to be held accountable for our actions, right? I can recognize I said something, I said it thoughtlessly, I said it mindlessly, I said it carelessly, I might even had the intent to harm you. And maybe if there wasn't a part of you that wasn't resonating with that, a part of you that is unhealed, you wouldn't have been triggered. You being triggered to that extent isn't my fault, but I, as a decent human being, still have a responsibility to acknowledge what is my fault, which is the fact that I'm human and I might say things or do things without giving a shit about how it affects you. I need to be held accountable for that. We all need to be held accountable for that. So don't allow anyone, whether it is your partner, your spiritual partner, your enlightened spiritual friend, or the coaches that you have, the people that you follow, that you look up to, that you pay money for their services, do not allow anyone to tell you that just because you were triggered, all of the accountability, all the responsibility falls on you and not on them, because that, my love, is a narcissistic gaslighting tactic. There is no way around it, okay? So please don't fall for that shit. Don't fall for that shit, okay? That makes me so fucking there are quite a lot of narcissists in the new age community. I don't know what the statistic is for like how many narcissists, like every one in something. I think it's like every 1 in 4 is a sociopath. Is that correct? Hold on. Okay, so 1 in 6 people are narcissists. 1 in 6. How many people do you follow, right? That means that there are probably quite a few people that are posing as gurus and coaches and enlightened and this and that, and are teaching you how to heal, and they're teaching you that if they trigger you, it's a you problem and never a them problem, and that's because they're a narcissist, not because they want you to heal. So just be mindful. If there is something that is triggering you, yes, look within, sit with that, figure out where that's coming from. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that it all falls on you. We all have a role to play. So don't let these motherfuckers gaslight you. Don't gaslight yourself. And the last new age myth that I would like to debunk is the idea that acknowledging collective suffering is useless or low vibrational or doesn't actually do anything. This is something that is running rampant right now, and it's something that has been running rampant for a long time. If you're healing, okay, if you're healing and your self-liberation does not include other people, then it's for nothing. We are surrounded and bombarded with this idea of, setting boundaries for yourself, distancing yourself from other people, distancing yourself from anything that triggers you, distancing yourself from anything that is harmful, that is not of your highest good, that is not supportive of the life that you are wanting to create. We are living under this idea that all we need is ourselves, and ourself should be put above everybody else. Do I think that you cannot help other people, you cannot love other people unless you are actively pouring into and loving yourself? Yes. Your healing should be for you, but it should also be for your ancestors. It should also be for the people around you who don't have access to the resources that you do. And it should be for people who, even if you can't meet them face to face, are experiencing immense suffering that we in the Western world couldn't even imagine, right? I wholeheartedly believe that our healing, our liberation within should extend outwardly, right? We heal ourselves and we love ourselves so that we have the means, the energy, the resources to share to other people and not feel drained, not feel like we have nothing left, right? It's not about giving the shirt off of your back and being left with nothing. It's not about completely draining yourself for other people and being left with nothing. You don't want to do that, because then you're no use to anyone, yourself or anyone. But we do need each other. We do need each other. We do need community. There have been so many studies that show that without community, people fall into depression. Depression and anxiety are the highest in the States. And what is the most common thing that we see is a lack of community. We are all so self-reliant. We are all in our own tiny little bubbles, and we think that that's healing, and it's not. We need other people, right? And so our healing and our liberation should be for others. Just as we have an individual shadow, the collective has a shadow as well. And when you ignore your individual shadow, you perpetuate more suffering. You manifest more mindless, unconscious suffering in your life. And the same applies to the collective. Just because you ignore the collective suffering that is happening around you doesn't mean that it's going to go away. If anything, that manifests more suffering, that adds to the suffering. What you bypass, you create more of. What you pretend doesn't exist, you allow to continue to fester, continue to run rampant. And if there's a part of you that feels like, I don't owe anyone anything, my healing, my liberation does not have to extend to other people because all I have is myself at the end of the day, right? If that's what you're thinking, I want you to think about what led you to need to heal. What has created the suffering, the pain, the anger within you? Other people, other unhealed people, other people who didn't extend a hand, other people who didn't extend their compassion, other people who didn't offer their resources or their support, right? And so if we want to end suffering, and I think as much as the Aquarian in me wants to believe in an ideal world where suffering doesn't exist, I don't think that that's what humanity has for us, and that's okay. If we want to ease the suffering in our own lives, in the lives of those around us, in the lives of those who we may never speak to or touch or look into the eyes of, if we want to ease that suffering, we do have to extend our healing outwardly. We do have to actively love and support other people, especially those who do not have the resources or the means or the understanding to do that. And it doesn't have to be self-sacrificial, as I kind of said earlier. It doesn't have to be self-sacrificial. You heal and you fill your cup so that you can pour into others. You don't just sacrifice yourself, neglect yourself to be there for others, because then you're not really, you don't have anything to give. You're giving from an empty cup. So there is a balance, but I absolutely believe in collective healing and collective liberation. And I think that the influencers and the spiritual gurus and coaches who are actively ignoring what's happening in the world right now, I just, it's really sad. Like, it really breaks my fucking heart not to have this episode take a turn, but it really breaks my fucking heart. And I think that they're missing the point. I really do think that they're missing the point. And I think that being of service is a beautiful, it's a gift that we have to give, being of service. When we are happy enough and healed enough and full enough to be able to be of service to other people, that is so powerful, and it comes back to you. I believe in karma, okay? I am ruled by Saturn. I believe in karma, baby. And if you are actively ignoring the suffering of other people, that will come back to you one way or another, okay? And who am I to say how, but I do believe in that. So now the last thing I want to say is just to reiterate, take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt, please. The whole point of really anything that I share is to offer perspective, to offer you a perspective or a path that you might not have considered before. I never want to come at you being like, this is right, I'm right, and everybody else is wrong. I want us to question. I want us to use our discernment. I want us to look within and see what resonates with me, what makes sense to me in my path and my healing and the way that I want my life to look and feel like. That is always the goal. So if there was anything that didn't really resonate with you or you're not sure about, please feel free to share, okay? We are here to be open. We are here to learn. We're here to expand, to grow. And I think sharing opposing opinions is a beautiful way to do that, as long as you're doing it from a space of love, okay? Because we're sensitive over here. Be nice. You can disagree with each other. You can disagree with me, but be nice. Always come from a place of love, okay? So with all that being said, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. If you are enjoying the podcast episodes, the videos, like and subscribe, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review. The podcast is on Spotify, on Apple, if you want to listen to it there. That's always linked below. Much, much love, and I will talk to you next week.